Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into something really fascinating today, the whole concept of holistic well-being. A lot of the time, we only think about health in terms of our physical bodies, right? Like eating your veggies or trying to avoid catching a cold. But true health actually expands way, way beyond that. It starts with our physical selves, sure, but then it radiates outward to our relationships, and ultimately, it shapes our entire society. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see just how deeply interconnected our personal, everyday habits are with the overall harmony of the world around us. All right, let's just jump right in. Our roadmap for today covers 6 key areas. First, health myths and facts. Second, defining social health. Third, the values of a healthy society. Fourth, the social health ecosystem. Fifth, essential core life skills. And lastly, actionable habits for well-being.
So, starting things off with Section 1, Health, Myths, and Facts.
Okay, before we can even talk about building a healthy society, we really need to nail down our physical health basics. I mean, have you ever heard the rumor that eating raw garlic, or even sesame seeds, is going to protect you against the virus? Well, while eating raw garlic is undeniably a great, healthy food choice, it's got plenty of nutritional benefits, it is scientifically proven that it absolutely will not shield you from the coronavirus. It's so crucial that we separate helpful dietary habits from actual medical protection. And hey, here's another super common one. The idea that you can catch COVID-19 through mosquito bites. The clear-cut fact we all need to understand here is that mosquitoes absolutely aren't the culprits. The coronavirus just cannot be spread through a bug bite. It spreads entirely through airborne droplets when an infected person sneezes or coughs. Having accurate, fact-checked health information like this, that's literally step 1 in being a responsible, healthy member of any community. Moving right along to Section 2, defining social health. So, now that we've cleared up some of those physical health myths, let's pivot to a much broader concept. Just ponder this for a second. What makes us truly healthy beyond just, not being sick? If your body is functioning perfectly, but you're completely isolated from everyone, are you actually healthy? Let's look at a story from the chapter about a 12-year-old kid named Ravi and his grandfather. The grandfather has been physically unwell for a really long time. And because of that, he isn't getting much company, which leaves him feeling incredibly lonely and isolated. Eventually, he starts feeling like he just isn't acceptable in society anymore. And what happens next? He expresses all that frustration by being rude and angry, criticizing everyone around him, which of course only alienates people even further. It's a perfect, albeit kind of sad, example of how physical sickness, mental strain, and social isolation are completely tied together. So what's the bottom line here? Well, social health definitely isn't just about going to parties and having tons of friends. It's really defined as the ability to form satisfying interpersonal relationships with others. It's about making positive connections, adapting to different social situations, and basically just acting appropriately depending on the context you're in. If you can do all that, you, my friend, are a socially healthy person. That brings us to Section 3, Values of a Healthy Society. Okay, so what happens when we scale this up? Like taking those personal relationships and applying them to a whole nation. The preamble to the Constitution of India is actually a brilliant illustration of this transition. At first glance, it might just look like a formal legal document, but if you really look closely at the constitutional values it promotes, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, it's basically a massive blueprint for social health. They're the exact same principles we need to live happily and be considerate of others in our own friend groups. Let's bring those big, grand constitutional words down to earth for a second. Justice? That just means fairly intervening when your friends are fighting, even if it means telling your best friend that they're the one at fault. Fraternity is simply helping those friends reconcile and rebuilding that bond. Equality is beautifully shown in our text through a boy named Arun. When he saw a poor kid in tattered clothes getting repeatedly shoved to the back of a food queue, Arun literally took the boy's hand and made sure he was fed fairly, right then and there. And liberty? That can be as simple as just listening to differing views and actually trying to understand someone else's perspective, especially when it doesn't match your own. All right, Section 4, the social health ecosystem. So whose job is it to build this kind of healthy society? You might think it's all on your shoulders, but actually it takes a whole ecosystem working together. Families, teachers, and even technology, they all have very specific do's and don'ts to keep us connected. Families need to be positive role models and encourage healthy habits, all while avoiding the overuse of TV or addictive substances. Teachers, they shouldn't just stand there and lecture. They need to be mentors, setting an example, and running group activities that build real team spirit. And technology is a huge one. It's amazing for accessing global information, but man, we have to be so careful not to withdraw socially into our screens, or worse, fall for fake news. It's all about keeping that ecosystem in balance.
Which leads us directly into Section 5, Essential Core Life Skills.
To successfully navigate this crazy ecosystem of family, school, and media, we need a specific toolkit. This builds up to a core list of essential life skills. Empathy, really understanding someone else's feelings, goes hand in hand with self-awareness. Effective communication helps us build those interpersonal relationships we talked about earlier. Problem-solving and decision-making, they let us handle life's roadblocks. Creative and critical thinking help us evaluate the world objectively. And coping with stress guarantees we don't end up alienating others when things get tough. Mastering these skills is an absolute game changer for building a happier, more harmonious society.
And finally, Section 6, Actionable Habits for Well-Being.
Well, theory is great and all, but how do we actually put these profound concepts into practice every single day? It starts with a few simple habits. Build up your hygiene and self-care routines. Say you're sorry when you mess up. Seriously, people will have so much more faith in you if you do. Make a real effort to reconnect with old friends to help beat stress, and always try to show tolerance. And there's this amazing piece of advice from the text about not being judgmental. When you point a finger and blame at someone else, just remember that 3 of your own fingers are pointing right back at you. It is such a cool physical reminder to keep our self-awareness in check. And schools can implement this stuff on a much larger scale too. They can easily swap out bad snacks for healthy canteen food like fresh fruit and make sure there's safe water. They can organize co-curricular activities and house systems to kind of force students out of their usual little cliques. They can even bring in experts in yoga, judo, or karate, which is awesome for building confidence and self-defense skills. Above all, schools can foster an environment that teaches a genuine love for all living beings.
I want to wrap things up today with a really powerful question straight from our chapter. We've talked about unlearning health myths, practicing empathy, and pointing those 3 fingers back at ourselves. So take just a second to really truly imagine it. What kind of society do you envision if the majority of its members are socially healthy? Just think about the massive, transformative impact of applying these relatively simple lessons. Really leaves you with a lot to think about, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope you take some of these life skills out into your own ecosystem today.